In the vast expanse of the Deathworld expanse, the gleaming silver ships of the Sci-Fi Dominion glided through the darkness like predatory fish. Their hulls shimmered with bioluminescent patterns, living technology that pulsed in rhythm with the thoughts of their tree-like masters. Inside the largest vessel, a viewing gallery stretched in a crescent, filled with the Dominion's elite. Their bark-like skin rustled with excitement as they gathered around hovering displays. "Distinguished patrons of the Dominion," announced R2, his leafy crest extended in ceremonial display. His voice carried the musical lilt common to all Sci-Fi nobles. "Today's entertainment promises exceptional thrills." The gathered aliens, some with skin like polished mahogany, others with the pale green of new growth, clicked their branched fingers in appreciation. They were the wealthy, the powerful, the bored. And they had come for the spectacle. "Planet Karath awaits below," R2 continued, gesturing to the rust-colored world visible through the gallery's transparent ceiling. "A world so hostile that even our finest terraformers abandoned it centuries ago." A ripple of amusement passed through the audience. Its atmosphere carries corrosive compounds that produce acid rain. Its flora evolved cutting edges to compete for the planet's scarce resources. And its unpredictable gravity storms can tear apart anything not secured to the bedrock. A technical assistant approached, offering R2 a crystal control sphere. The host's fingers closed around it as he smiled. "And now, our volunteers, 20 humans, each seeking the ultimate adventure, the ultimate challenge." His tone dripped with mockery. "The ultimate survival test." On the displays, cameras showed the interior of a drop pod. 20 humans sat strapped into acceleration couches, faces tense but determined. Some checked equipment. Others stared straight ahead. And one, a woman with deep brown skin and tight coils of black hair pulled back in a practical style, was examining a small potted seedling with complete focus, as if the imminent drop to a death world was a minor inconvenience. "Dr. Maya Kessler," R2 announced, the display zooming in on her face. "A xenobotanist with an impressive academic record, but no survival experience." Laughter rippled through the gallery. "Let's see how her plants fare against Karath's razor thorns and acidic soil." Maya glanced up briefly at the camera, her expression calm and unreadable, before returning to her seedling. "The wagers are placed," R2 announced. "The entertainment begins. Enjoy the show. Don't expect survivors." With a theatrical flourish, he activated the crystal sphere. On the displays, the humans braced as warning lights flashed. The drop pod detached from the main vessel with a mechanical clunk, then plummeted toward the swirling, rust-colored atmosphere below. R2 smiled as the pod disappeared into the clouds. "Now, who would like refreshments while we wait for the first fatalities?" The Sci-Fi elite chittered in anticipation, moving toward floating trays of luminescent beverages. None noticed that Maya Kessler, just before the camera feed cut out, had smiled. The Sci-Fi Dominion had reigned for 12,000 years, spreading from their home world like a creeping vine across a fertile garden. They were masters of biological engineering, having modified their own forms countless times to extend their lifespans and enhance their natural telepathic abilities. Their cities were grown, not built, living metropolises of engineered plant matter that reached toward distant stars. They had encountered many species in their expansion. Some became allies, others servants. A few, those who resisted, were carefully pruned from existence. The Sci-Fi saw the galaxy as their garden, and they were its caretakers. All things had their place in the grand design. Humans, the Sci-Fi had decided, were amusing curiosities, primitive but surprisingly resilient. When human explorers first encountered the Dominion 3 decades ago, the Sci-Fi initially dismissed them. The humans lacked telepathy. Their technology was crude compared to Sci-Fi bioengineering. Their lifespans were laughably brief. But humans proved adaptable. They learned quickly, traded cleverly, and displayed an irritating knack for survival. Rather than waste resources subduing such a scattered species, the Dominion opted for a more elegant solution: integration as entertainment. Deathworld adventures had begun as a simple concept: allow humans to volunteer for extreme survival experiences on worlds the Sci-Fi had deemed uninhabitable. The humans received compensation if they survived until extraction. The Sci-Fi received entertainment and the satisfaction of demonstrating human inferiority. No human had ever survived on Karath. "The statistics are quite clear," said senior analyst Evner, his old bark cracking as he gestured to floating displays in the ship's research center. 127 drops on Karath. 0 successful extractions. R2 nodded, only half listening as he prepared for the next broadcast segment. Yes, that's what makes this entertaining." "You misunderstand," Evner persisted. "I've been analyzing this particular group. Their selection criteria differ from previous drops." "Different how?" R2 asked, irritation creeping into his voice. The broadcast would resume in moments. Previous groups consisted primarily of adventure seekers, military veterans, or survival enthusiasts. This group is predominantly scientists, specialists in fields relevant to Karath's challenges. R2 dismissed the concern with a wave. Humans believe knowledge equals power, but Karath doesn't care about degrees or research papers. The planet kills indiscriminately. "Perhaps," Evner conceded. "But I've been reviewing Dr. Kessler's profile more thoroughly. Her childhood was spent on Aquaria Station." "The broadcasting sphere is ready." "Noble R2, interrupted a technical assistant. R2 turned away from the analyst. "We'll continue this later. The patrons are waiting for their entertainment." As R2 departed, Evner turned back to Maya Kessler's profile. Something didn't add up. Aquaria Station had been humanity's most ambitious deep-sea habitat, until catastrophic flooding damaged its environmental systems. Most children would have been evacuated, but Maya had remained, assisting her parents in salvaging the station's hydroponics bay under emergency conditions. She had grown up learning to coax life from dead systems, to read plants like others read books, to recognize the subtle signs of adaptation and survival in hostile conditions. Perhaps, Evner thought, she wasn't as unprepared as everyone assumed. Maya's lungs burned as she sprinted across the crimson plain, acid rain sizzling against her environmental suit. Behind her, 3 of her teammates struggled with a makeshift travois loaded with harvested fungal pods. Ahead, the outline of their base camp shimmered through the caustic mist. "Move faster," she called over the comm system. "That gravity distortion is growing." They had felt the first tremors 20 minutes ago, subtle at first, then increasingly violent. Objects beginning to drift upward, then being slammed back down with crushing force. They'd learned to recognize the warning signs during their 2 weeks on Karath. 2 weeks. 14 days of hell that had winnowed their group from 20 to 15. Not from acid rain or predators, but from a simple failure to adapt. 5 had given up, their minds broken by Karath's relentless hostility. The remaining 15 had found a rhythm, a system, a way to survive. And Maya had found more. She'd found possibility. "Dr. Kessler," called Luis Okafor, the group's geologist, his voice crackling through the comm. "The gravity wave is accelerating. We won't make it back carrying this load." Maya glanced at the precious fungal harvest. The luminescent pods contained compounds that neutralized Karath's acid rain, their first major discovery. Without them, their equipment would corrode within days. Shelter in place, she decided. There's a rock outcropping 50 meters east. We'll secure the harvest and ride out the storm. They changed direction, stumbling toward a formation of red stone jutting from the plain like broken teeth. As they reached its base, Maya felt the familiar vertigo of shifting gravity. Small stones began to rise around them, hovering momentarily before crashing down with twice their normal weight. "Secure yourselves," she ordered, pulling anchoring spikes from her pack and driving one through a loop in her suit and into the rocky ground. Her teammates did the same, then lashed the fungal pods between them. Helmets sealed, oxygen flowing. Maya checked as the gravity distortion intensified. When everyone confirmed, she allowed herself a moment to observe. Karath was trying to kill them, again. But the planet's attempts were becoming predictable. The gravity storm peaked, and Maya felt her body lighten until she was restrained only by the anchoring spike. All around them, the landscape transformed. Stones, loose soil, and bits of vegetation lifted in a swirling dance. In the distance, a small lake of acidic liquid rose in a perfect dome, its surface tension maintaining its shape as it floated upward. "It's beautiful," whispered Sophia Chen, the team's physicist. Maya had to agree. Deadly. Yes, but beautiful in its alien perfection. And more importantly, it was comprehensible. Every lethal aspect of Karath followed patterns. Patterns could be studied, understood, exploited. The floating lake suddenly collapsed as gravity reasserted itself with crushing force. Maya grunted as her weight doubled, then tripled. The anchoring spike groaned but held, one by one. Her teammates confirmed they were secure. "Everyone still with me?" Maya asked once the gravity normalized. "That was closer than I'd like," said Luis, checking the fungal pods. "But the harvest is intact." Maya nodded, rising carefully and retrieving her anchor. "Good. Then we've got what we need for the next phase." "Which is?" asked Sophia. Maya smiled behind her helmet visor. "We're going to stop reacting to Karath and start making Karath react to us." In the viewing gallery, the atmosphere had changed. What began as entertainment had evolved into something unexpected, fascination. "Impossible," muttered a Sivari noble, her leaves twitching in agitation. "They should have perished days ago." "Yet they persist," replied her companion, leaning closer to the display, "and appear to be thriving." The displays showed multiple angles of the human encampment. What had begun as a desperate cluster of survival shelters had evolved into an organized settlement. Domed structures connected by enclosed corridors sprawled across a relatively flat area. Around the perimeter, a barrier of electrified logs harvested from Karath's equivalent of trees created a defensive line against the planet's predatory amphibians. Most remarkably, several domes contained growing plants, not native species, but cultivated crops engineered to withstand the planet's harsh conditions. R2 stood at the center of the gallery, his earlier smugness replaced with confusion. "Our analysts assure me this is unusual," he admitted to the gathered elites. "No previous human group has established sustainable agriculture on Karath." "What are those structures on the southern perimeter?" asked a patron, pointing to a series of tall, spindly towers rising from the settlement. "Gravity detectors," answered Evnir, stepping forward, uninvited. "They appear to be providing early warning of approaching distortion fields." R2 shot the analyst an irritated glance. "Yes, well." "And those?" interrupted another patron, indicating a field of strange, dish-like plants surrounding the settlement. "Modified native flora," Evnir explained. "The humans have selectively bred a variant of the razor leaf plant. They've enhanced its natural ability to collect and channel the planet's acidic precipitation." Murmurs spread through the gallery. This was not the entertainment they had expected, watching humans die in increasingly creative ways. Instead, they were witnessing something unprecedented: adaptation. "The extraction is scheduled for tomorrow," R2 announced, attempting to regain control of the situation. "We shall see if their innovations prove sufficient for survival until then." A technical assistant approached, whispering urgently in R2's ear. The host's leaves stiffened in shock. "What is it?" demanded a prominent patron. R2 hesitated before responding. "It appears the humans have left their settlement. They are mounting an expedition." "To where?" asked several voices at once. Evner stepped forward again, his ancient eyes gleaming with interest. "To our abandoned research station, the one we evacuated 70 years ago when Karath was deemed unconquerable." The gallery erupted in chaos as the displays shifted to show a small team of humans, led by Maya Kessler, approaching the overgrown ruins of a Sci-Fi outpost. What could they possibly want there? R2 wondered aloud. Evner's bark creased in what passed for a Sci-Fi smile. "Power," he said simply. "The station's core would still be functional. And with power." He didn't need to finish the thought. Every Sci-Fi present understood the implications. With a functioning power source, the human settlement could move from survival to permanence. "This changes the entertainment parameters," R2 said slowly. Perhaps extraction should be accelerated. Or perhaps, suggested Evnir, we should continue observing. This has become a much more interesting experiment than anyone anticipated. So, Maya had never seen anything so beautiful as the faint blue glow emanating from beneath layers of Karath's creeping vines. The Sci-Fi research station was barely recognizable. Its living architecture had continued to grow unchecked for decades, merging with the native flora in a chaotic tangle of competing biological imperatives. But beneath it all, the power core still hummed with energy. "It's intact," confirmed Hiroshi Tanaka, their engineer, his voice filled with wonder. "After all this time." "Sci-Fi technology," Maya replied, carefully pulling back another layer of vines. "Designed to outlast civilizations." Their team of 5 had traveled 8 kilometers from the main settlement, risking the journey during a rare calm period between acid storms. Each carried specialized equipment for the extraction and weapons fashioned from native materials to defend against Karath's predators. "We've got movement," warned Elena Volkov, their security specialist. She pointed to a ripple in the crimson vegetation surrounding the station ruins. 3 meters out, approaching from the east." Maya nodded calmly. "Blade fins," she identified, "a hunting pack, drawn by our body heat." The creatures were Karath's apex predators, amphibian-like beings with overlapping plates of keratin that formed natural cutting edges along their limbs and dorsal ridges. They hunted in coordinated packs, using flanking maneuvers that suggested disturbing intelligence. "Defense formation," Elena ordered. "Hiroshi, keep working on the power core. We'll handle this." Maya, Elena, and the other 2 team members formed a protective circle around Hiroshi. They raised their weapons, spears crafted from the rigid stems of Karath's razor flora, the tips coated with a paralytic compound extracted from fungal pods. The first blade fin lunged from the undergrowth, a blur of glistening scales and slashing edges. Elena met it with her spear, driving the point deep into the creature's throat. It thrashed wildly, then went rigid as the paralytic took effect. 2 more attacked simultaneously from different angles. Maya pivoted, her movements precise from weeks of similar encounters. Her spear caught one blade fin mid-leap, while her teammate dispatched the other. More shapes moved in the vegetation. Many more. "This isn't a hunting pack," Maya realized aloud. "It's a full colony defense response. They think we're threatening their territory." Elena cursed. "There could be dozens. We need to extract now or we're dead." "The power core isn't fully disconnected," Hiroshi called from his position. "I need at least 10 more minutes." "We don't have 10 minutes," Elena countered as more blade fins emerged from the undergrowth. Maya made a swift decision. "New plan. Hiroshi, focus on detaching the smallest functional unit. Everyone else, defensive retreat to that elevated position." She pointed to a section of the research station that had collapsed, forming a ramp-like structure above ground level. They moved quickly, fighting their way to the elevated position. The blade fins followed, but struggled with the climb, their anatomy better suited to horizontal charges. From their new vantage point, Maya surveyed the situation. Dozens of blade fins now surrounded the station ruins, their scales glistening with acidic condensation from Karath's atmosphere. They were trapped, but they also had a crucial advantage. "They're protecting something," Maya observed, noting how the creatures kept returning to a specific area of dense vegetation. "That must be their nesting ground." "How does that help us?" Elena asked, driving her spear into another blade fin that had managed to partially climb the ramp. Maya reached into her pack and removed a small container of fungal extract, the compound they used to neutralize Karath's acid rain. "We're not going to fight them," she explained. "We're going to negotiate." "Negotiate? With animals?" Elena looked at her like she'd lost her mind. "With intelligent beings protecting their home," Maya corrected. She opened the container and poured its contents into a shallow depression on their elevated platform. The liquid glowed softly in the dim light. The blade fins paused their attacks, their attention drawn to the luminescent pool. "They're sensitive to the fungal compounds," Maya explained quietly. "We've seen them gathering around our processing area back at the settlement." One larger blade fin approached the pool, its movements cautious but deliberate. It extended a specialized appendage, something between a fin and a hand, and touched the liquid. A trilling sound emerged from its throat. "It's calling the others," Maya observed as more blade fins approached the platform, their aggressive posture relaxing. Over the next tense minutes, an unprecedented exchange unfolded. Maya carefully offered more fungal extract. The blade fins responded by withdrawing slightly, creating a path to the power core. "They understand trade," Maya whispered in amazement. "Resource exchange." "Hiroshi," she called softly, "resume work on the core. Move slowly. No sudden movements." The engineer nodded and carefully returned to the power core, continuing the extraction process while the blade fins watched with alien attentiveness. 3 hours later, they departed the research station with a functioning Sci-Fi power unit and escorted by a small contingent of blade fins that kept other predators at bay during their return journey. "You realize what this means," Elena said as they approached their settlement, the power core secure on their makeshift travois. Maya nodded. "It means Karath isn't just a death world. It's a world with potential partners." The Sci-Fi viewing gallery had fallen silent, a rarity among a species whose members constantly communicated through subtle rustlings of leaves and twigs. Every eye was fixed on the displays showing the human settlement on Karath. In just under 3 weeks, what had begun as a desperate struggle for survival had transformed into something unprecedented. The domed structures now glowed with power harvested from the Sci-Fi research station. Fields of modified crops flourished under carefully controlled conditions. Most disturbing to the Sci-Fi observers, native life forms, including the deadly blade fins, now moved freely through designated areas of the settlement. "This was not the intended outcome," R2 stated flatly, addressing the Council of Elders who had been summoned to witness the phenomenon. "No," agreed High Elder Zoran, her ancient bark cracked with countless growth rings. "It was not. Yet it raises fascinating questions about our understanding of human potential." "They should have died," insisted another elder. "No species has successfully colonized Karath. Even our own attempts failed." "Because we approached colonization as conquest," Evnir observed. He had been invited to share his analysis with the council. "The humans are approaching it as integration." On the displays, the cameras zoomed in on Dr. Maya Kessler. She stood in what appeared to be a botanical laboratory, examining the structure of a native plant alongside a modified Earth species. Her expression showed neither fear nor triumph, only intense concentration. "The extraction vessels are in position," reported a technical officer, "awaiting command to proceed." High Elder Zoran rustled thoughtfully. What would happen, I wonder, if we delayed extraction? How far could this experiment progress? That would violate our agreement, R2 objected. The humans expect retrieval after 30 cycles. Unless they no longer desire it, suggested Evnir. Before anyone could respond, alarms blared throughout the viewing gallery. The displays flickered, then stabilized to show a massive gravity storm forming directly over the human settlement, the largest they had observed since monitoring began. Catastrophic gravitational flux detected, announced a technical officer. Predicted intensity exceeds survival parameters by 300%. A grim satisfaction spread through parts of the gallery. Nature would accomplish what the Sivari had expected all along. The humans are responding, noted Evnir, pointing to increased activity in the settlement. On the displays, Maya Kessler was directing a coordinated effort. Teams secured structures with additional anchoring systems. Others moved vulnerable equipment into reinforced chambers. Still others were constructing something new at the settlement's perimeter. What are those? Asked an elder, indicating tall, skeletal structures being rapidly assembled. They appear to be gliders, Evnir replied, his voice reflecting his disbelief. They're building aircraft in the face of a gravity storm. Madness, whispered R2. The storm descended upon the settlement with apocalyptic fury. The visual feeds distorted as gravity waves warped light itself. Equipment, vegetation, and loose soil lifted into swirling vortices before crashing down with crushing force. Several peripheral structures collapsed immediately. Then the unimaginable happened. As the gravity fluctuations reached their peak, creating a brief period of near-zero gravity, humans launched from the settlement's perimeter on their makeshift gliders, constructions of native vines wrapped around pressurized fungal sacs that provided lift and directional control. They're using the storm itself as a propulsion system, Evnir explained, his voice filled with reluctant admiration. The vertical drafts from the gravity differentials are providing lift. The human gliders soared above the settlement, then banked toward a deep ravine where several team members had been caught while retrieving water from an underground source. The rescue mission was daring, precise, and, against all probability, successful. One by one, the stranded humans were retrieved and returned to the settlement before the gravity normalized in a crushing wave that would have killed anyone caught in the open. When the storm cleared, the settlement remained, damaged but intact, and larger than before. 17 of 20 original subjects remain alive, reported a technical officer. This exceeds survival projections by 17. High Elder Zoran turned to R2, her ancient eyes glimmering with an emotion rare among the Sivari. Surprise. I believe, she said slowly, we should reconsider our entertainment parameters. Maya felt the change before she saw it. A subtle shift in atmospheric pressure. A new scent carried on Karath's caustic winds. She looked up from her work in the expanded botanical lab and knew immediately. They're here, she announced to her team. No one needed to ask who they were. After 28 days, 2 days ahead of the scheduled extraction, the Sivari had returned, but not as expected. Multiple ships detected in low orbit, confirmed Luis from the communications center they'd established using components from the Sivari research station. Not just extraction vessels, a full diplomatic flotilla. Maya nodded, unsurprised. Their activities hadn't exactly been subtle, and she'd spotted the observation drones days ago. The Sci-Fi had been watching, learning, perhaps even worrying. Incoming transmission, Luis added. They're requesting permission to land. A smile touched Maya's lips. Permission? That's new. The settlement gathered in the central dome. 17 survivors transformed by their time on Karath. No longer merely fighting for survival. They had become something unexpected. Colonists. Let them land at the designated zone, Maya decided, and prepare our greeting. When the Sci-Fi ships descended through Karath's turbulent atmosphere, they encountered an organized reception unlike anything they had anticipated. The human settlement had expanded to cover nearly a square kilometer. Ordered fields of engineered crops surrounded the central structures. Gravitational stabilizers, salvaged from the research station and enhanced with human ingenuity, created a zone of relative normalcy amid the planet's chaos. Most shocking to the Sci-Fi observers were the blade fins standing alongside humans at the perimeter, their natural weapons displayed but non-threatening. 3 Sci-Fi dignitaries emerged from the lead vessel, their environmental shields shimmering around their wooden forms. Maya recognized the entertainment host, R2. His leafy crest now subdued in what she had learned indicated formality among their species. Beside him stood an ancient Sci-Fi whose bark was cracked with countless growth rings, and a third whose attentive gaze suggested a researcher or analyst. "Welcome to Karath Colony." Maya greeted them, standing confidently despite the acid mist swirling around her protected form. "You're early for our extraction." R2's leaves rustled with what might have been embarrassment. "Dr. Kessler, the Dominion Council has reassessed the situation." "I imagine they have," Maya replied evenly. "Your entertainment didn't proceed according to script." The ancient Sci-Fi stepped forward. "I am High Elder Zoran. Your achievements here have surprised us." "Humans are full of surprises," Maya said, "especially when underestimated." A tense silence followed, broken by the third Sci-Fi. "I am Analyst Evnir. I have studied your methods with great interest. The symbiotic relationship you've established with native flora and fauna. It contradicts all previous assumptions about Karath's habitability." Maya gestured to the settlement around them. "We didn't conquer Karath. We joined it. A concept worthy of further exploration," Zoran acknowledged. "Which brings us to our purpose here. The Dominion Council proposes a new arrangement." Behind Maya, her team members exchanged glances. This was the moment they had prepared for. The real reason they had worked so frantically to establish a functioning colony rather than merely surviving until extraction. "We're listening," Maya said. "The humans who wish to depart may do so." Zoran continued. "Those who wish to remain may continue this experiment under Sci-Fi observation." "Observation," Maya repeated, her tone making it clear the term was unacceptable. R2's leaves rustled with irritation. "You were brought here for entertainment. Now you demand recognition as a sovereign colony." "We demand acknowledgement of what we've accomplished," Maya corrected. "And yes, sovereignty over the world we've learned to call home." Behind them, a gravity tremor shook the ground, causing the Sci-Fi delegates to shift uneasily while the humans remained steady, accustomed to Karath's rhythms. "Perhaps," suggested Evnir, "we could offer technical assistance. Our bioengineering expertise combined with your adaptive approaches could yield an exchange," Maya interrupted. "Not assistance. We've developed technologies here that would interest the Dominion. Techniques for symbiotic integration rather than terraforming. In return, we require recognition and resources." The High Elder's ancient eyes narrowed. "You wish to negotiate?" "As partners," Maya clarified, "with different strengths and perspectives." Before Zoran could respond, alarms sounded throughout the settlement. Luis rushed to Maya's side. "Massive gravity distortion forming in the upper atmosphere," he reported urgently. "Largest we've ever recorded. The Sci-Fi ships are in its direct path." The delegates' leaves trembled with alarm. "Our vessels must depart immediately," R2 insisted. "Too late," Luis countered, checking his instruments. "The distortion field has already enveloped the upper atmosphere. Any ship attempting to leave would be torn apart." "Then we are trapped," Zoran stated, a note of fear entering her musical voice. Maya exchanged glances with her team. This wasn't part of their plan, but it might be exactly the opportunity they needed. Not trapped, she corrected. Protected, if you're willing to trust human ingenuity. What followed would be recorded in both human and Sivarai histories as the Karath Convergence. As the gravity storm intensified to unprecedented levels, Maya's team implemented emergency protocols developed during their weeks on the hostile planet. The settlement's gravitational stabilizers, originally designed to protect only the immediate vicinity, were reconfigured to create a wider field that encompassed the Sivari landing zone. Outside this protected bubble, Karath descended into gravitational chaos. Entire landmasses lifted and crashed back to the surface. Lakes of acidic liquid formed perfect spheres in midair before exploding into caustic rain. The very fabric of space-time seemed to warp and bend. Within the settlement, humans and Sivarai worked side by side, ancient enemies united by immediate survival. Evnir provided crucial insights into Sivarai technology that allowed Maya's team to enhance their stabilizers. R2, surprisingly, demonstrated considerable skill in communicating with the blade fins, using subtle body language that transcended species barriers. And High Elder Zoran, witnessing human adaptability firsthand, began to reconsider 12,000 years of Dominion philosophy. When the storm finally subsided 18 hours later, the settlement remained intact, as did the Sivarai ships. But something fundamental had changed. Your colony has survived 120 gravity events in 29 days, Zoran observed as they gathered in the central dome for what had become a formal diplomatic council, including the most severe storm recorded in Sivarai monitoring history. Karath isn't unconquerable, Maya explained. It's just not compatible with the Dominion's approach to colonization. You seek to impose your will on worlds. We've learned to collaborate with them. Evner's leaves rustled with excitement. The implications extend far beyond this single planet. There are 17 worlds the Dominion has classified as uninhabitable that might respond to your methods. 17 worlds that could become human colonies? Maya suggested. Or joint ventures, countered Zoran, surprising everyone present. The ancient Sivarai's demeanor had shifted during their shared crisis. The Dominion Council will require persuasion, but I believe a treaty could be arranged. Sovereignty for Karath colony in exchange for shared biotechnology. R2, who had been uncharacteristically quiet, finally spoke. This was not the entertainment I promised our patrons. No, agreed Maya. It's something far more valuable. 2 months later, Maya stood on a ridge overlooking the expanded colony. What had begun as a desperate survival encampment now covered nearly 10 square kilometers. Domed structures housed laboratories, living quarters, and community spaces. Fields of hybrid crops, human species enhanced with native Karath genetics, flourished under carefully managed conditions. A permanent shield against gravity distortions hummed with power derived from Sivarai bioreactors combined with human engineering. Most remarkably, blade fins now patrolled alongside human security teams, their natural weapons complementing human technology in a symbiotic defense arrangement. "Dr. Kessler," called a voice behind her. Maya turned to see Evnir approaching, his wooden form moving with the careful precision required by Karath's higher gravity. The analyst had remained as the official Dominion representative while the treaty was formalized. "The ceremonial planting is prepared," he informed her. "The council delegation has arrived." Maya nodded, taking a final moment to appreciate the view before following Evnir down the ridge toward the colony's central plaza. There, a crowd had gathered, the original 17 survivors, now joined by nearly 100 new colonists who had volunteered after news of Karath's transformation spread throughout human space. In the center of the plaza, a shallow pit had been prepared in Karath's red soil. Beside it stood High Elder Zoran, who had personally returned to oversee the ceremony. and R2, whose entertainment program had evolved into the highest-rated educational broadcast in Dominion history. "Today marks a new chapter for both our peoples," Zoran announced as Maya took her position beside the pit. "The Treaty of Karath establishes not only the first recognized human colony in the Zephyral Expanse, but a new model of cooperative development. From a ceremonial container, Maya removed a seedling, a hybrid created by combining Sivari living architecture with Karath's native flora and genetically modified earth stock. The result was something entirely new, a plant designed to thrive in Karath's hostile environment while enhancing it for both human and native life. With this planting, we acknowledge that neither conquest nor submission leads to true growth," Maya said, her voice carrying across the hushed crowd. "Only mutual adaptation creates lasting change." She placed the seedling into the prepared soil and, together with Zoran, covered its roots. A soft blue glow emanated from the plant, the bioluminescence that would eventually grow into a living center for the colony. As the ceremony concluded and the crowd dispersed, Maya remained by the seedling, making minor adjustments to ensure its successful adaptation. "An impressive achievement," observed R2, approaching after the others had departed. The entertainment host had undergone his own transformation during these events. From death sentence to diplomatic triumph. "We were never meant to be merely entertainment," Maya replied, not looking up from her work. "Just as Karath was never meant to be merely a death world. The Dominion is reconsidering many assumptions," R2 admitted. "Your methods are being studied, your achievements analyzed." Maya finally stood, meeting the Sivari's gaze directly. "Let's see who's really hosting the show now." R2's leaves rustled with what might have been amusement before he departed, leaving Maya alone with the newly planted seedling. As darkness fell, its gentle glow intensified, casting blue light across the red landscape, unknown to either humans or Sci-Fi. A third observer watched these proceedings with intense interest. In high orbit beyond detection range, a vessel of unfamiliar design maintained position. Its occupants, neither human nor Sci-Fi, recorded everything. The unexpected alliance between two previously antagonistic species presented new variables in their calculations. The successful colonization of a world previously deemed uninhabitable suggested possibilities they had not considered. They would continue watching, analyzing, planning, and when the time was right, they too would make contact with the colony that had defied all expectations. On the surface below, Maya whispered to the glowing seedling as Karath's strange stars appeared overhead. "This is just the beginning.